Hello, Emory families. Welcome to our Tips for Successful Online Learning from Emory University. We're here from Atlanta, Georgia, and we're excited to tell you a little bit about what we're having to offer for this fall, and we're excited that you're with us today. I'm Bridget Guernsey-Reardon, and I'm with Family Programs at Emory, and I have a host of colleagues that are experts in their field here to tell you how to help your students prepare. We know it's a little different than what you anticipated when you applied to Emory, but we have some really interesting and exciting things to tell you about and ways that will engage with your students in meaningful ways. So I'm going to pass this off to my colleague, Sherry Obrance in the college, and Sherry will give you a little overview and tell you a little bit more about our program today. Sherry?
Thanks, Bridget, and hello, families. I can't believe we've made it to the end of our Friday Family series. But we really think this is a great way to end this series and actually to kick off our academic year. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists, and then we're going to jump right in because we know you have lots of great questions about what online learning will look like at Emory and how your students can be successful. Again, my name is Sherry Obrance. I'm an Associate Dean in the Office for Undergraduate Education or Academic Affairs in the college. And today you'll hear from some really amazing colleagues who've been working really for months and months and months to prepare for your students. So first, Sarah Jackson Wade in our Office of International and Summer Programs. She's had the pleasure of training over 700 faculty in online teaching. She'll tell you more about that. Meredith Ray is our Associate Director of all of our academic success programs in the college, and we'll share lots of cool details and things that they've been working on. And two of our fabulous professors, Matt Payne from history and Liz Kim from psychology, who are really excited to share not only how they've transformed their classes in an online environment, but some of the cool things they've learned about students online and some of the silver linings really about being in this new format. So without further ado, a big shout out to producer Blaze, who's been with us all summer, working behind the scenes in the chats. The chat is live. If you want to post questions throughout, we're happy to review them and share them with our panelists as well. And we are going to start with Sarah, who's going to tell us a little bit more about online teaching.
Thanks, Sherry. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be with you today. I thought that I'd start off by taking a few minutes to just tell you a little bit about the history of online teaching here in Emory College and a little bit about what we've done to prepare over the last 6 months for this fall. So while spring 2020 was a challenge for all of us, Emory College found itself in a really good position to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. Unlike many of our peers, we had an established Emory College online course model, and we had a fully developed training program to equip faculty to teach online. So since 2015, Emory College has offered online courses as a part of our regular undergraduate curriculum. Prior to 2020, we had already trained over 60 faculty members to develop and teach online courses across the departments within Emory College. These courses had been offered primarily during the summer, and they were in extremely high demand by our students. All of our evaluations showed that students found our online courses to be just as engaging and just as academically rigorous, if not more so, than our face-to-face courses. So we had some confidence in our model going into this process. Also, our faculty consistently reported that they were pleasantly surprised by how much they enjoyed teaching these online courses and by how well they got to know their students during the process of teaching these courses. So our Emory College online model is based on a couple of key principles. First, we believe that our online courses should reflect the best aspects of an Emory undergraduate liberal arts education. They should be highly engaging and rigorous courses. So our courses are not MOOCs. They are not self-paced online courses. They're not self-guided online courses, but instead they rely on consistent, regular interaction of the students with the course materials, with other students, and with the faculty member. All of our courses have both synchronous class meetings, which is when everyone logs onto Zoom and interacts together, and asynchronous content, which is content that the faculty member has created or curated for students to access on their own time outside of the Zoom meetings. So which material a faculty member chooses to present synchronously and which they choose to present asynchronously is the end result of a really thoughtful process that faculty members have gone through to maximize the intellectual engagement of students with the course content. Our second principle is that faculty expertise is still the cornerstone of everything we do here at Emory. And so our approach has been to work with faculty to equip them with all that they need in order to teach online. Instead of having just instructional designers develop the courses, the faculty members themselves develop the courses and develop all of their key content. So this past spring was still an emergency for all educational institutions across America, but Emory handled it quite well. Our faculty were still forced to pivot classes that had originally been designed to be taught on campus to the online environment. And we are approaching this fall knowing that we're in a different ballgame now. Our faculty have now been able to intentionally design courses to teach online. The learning objectives and outcomes of the courses are the same in both our online courses or if the courses have been taught face-to-face. But now the course schedules, the activities, all of those things have been thoughtfully designed in order to maximize the mode that we're teaching in, which is now online. So all of our faculty in Emory College, one of the things that makes us different from a lot of other universities is that all of the Emory College faculty spent the summer in training to learn to teach online. So all of our faculty were enrolled as students in our online training course, which we call Emory College Online Teaching Strategies, or ECOTS. And that's a little bit different. If you think about it, a lot of faculty have not experienced learning online as a student before. So our training program gave them the opportunity to feel what it was like to be an Emory College student, interacting with Canvas, which is our learning management system, and learning over Zoom. So that is a really valuable experience for all of our faculty. This summer, faculty enrolled alongside their departmental colleagues in lots of small cohorts and learned about the best practices in online course design and teaching, while also becoming familiar with the technology that they were going to use. So a lot of universities offered support for faculty over the summer, but Emory was a rare institution that really provided an opportunity for every single faculty member to together and brainstorm about how to create the best experience for our students this fall. And so we believe that this has equipped our faculty to approach this semester with creativity and even a lot of excitement about teaching online. So we're looking forward to what this semester holds. Our courses will continue to meet Emory's high academic standards, and students will have consistent opportunities to engage with each other and with their professors throughout the semester. It will be different than being in the classroom, but it will still be a high quality and engaging Emory education. One of the questions that we've received from a lot of people is, why can't you just add extra seats? If these classes are taught online, why can't you just allow as many students to enroll in each class as would like to? And that really comes back to the model that we have, which is that we want students and faculty to be able to engage, to get to know one another, to really be present, for faculty to be present, to answer any student questions that come up, and to really partner with your student to learn the material. And so for that reason, we've limited the size in the classes to the same sizes that faculty have when they teach these classes on campus. So I'll pause here and see if we have any questions before we move on to the next slide.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I think now we're going to hear a little bit from Matt and Liz about their experiences in just a moment. There have been some questions about how many of our classes are online, and we do know that we have about 900 first-year students joining us on campus. The majority of classes will still be online, and so it's good for everybody to know that that is the experience. We will have in-person classes, some of them, and we are trying our best to prioritize students on campus into those. We know that our faculty are also really thinking about other ways to engage with students who will be living on campus. So don't think of this as just your classroom time. But I know like our art history department is thinking about ways to do tours of the Carlos Museum or other things as an example. So that's a great question. And Sarah, I'll turn it back to you to talk more about our technology requirements.
Great. So there are a few technology requirements, just basic technology that we would like every student to have access to this semester in order to fully engage in their classes. So first, every student will need to have a computer or a laptop that they can use for their classes. You can see a few more details about the operating systems are there on the screen for you to see. Also, every student will need to have a working webcam. The built-in webcam in your device is fine. If it's broken, then you could have an external webcam. But because our classes are engaging, students should plan to log into their Zoom live class sessions with their video on. And so they're going to need a webcam in order to engage with the faculty and with other students. We recommend that everybody have a headphones and with a microphone, with a built-in microphone. And again, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be just the earbuds that came with your cell phone or an inexpensive pair ordered from online. But this will help students to tune out background noise. It'll help to make sure that they're really focused on the class, and it'll make the experience more enjoyable for everyone involved. And then finally, students need to have access to reliable high-speed internet. And if you have difficulty with having access to any of these four components, then we would encourage you to visit that URL that you see at the page, at the bottom of the page there, Student Digital Life, or to reach out to your financial aid advisor or academic advisor to let them know that you're having difficulty securing any of this technology, and we'll work with you to make sure that everyone has access.
Sarah, I'll just add to that really this is a great opportunity for students to connect with faculty too. I know I was in an advising appointment just 2 days ago and my internet went out twice within an hour-long session. So we know these things are happening. And Matt and Liz can talk about this in a moment. Our faculty are human and dealing with the same things as well, so that's expected. But we really will expect your students to communicate with their faculty too. So if something isn't working, if a webcam is temporarily broken, or if they're in an environment of shared space and can't turn on their camera for a day, that's a really great opportunity to connect with faculty members. And I see some questions about office hours and other ways, but thanks Sarah so much. That's a great setup to tee up our faculty members. Going to turn to Matt and Liz here and just have a little conversation asking them about their experience and what they teach and what they've learned. So Matt, I'll start with you if you want to introduce yourself, what you teach, and what you're teaching this fall, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. I'm the Russian historian at Emory, Russian-Soviet history, and also director of undergraduate studies. So I've been working a lot with the ECOTS people to prepare for online learning. And I can say that departments are doing things as well as ECOTS. For instance, we have summer interns who have been helping some of our students, rather our faculty, get their materials online and ready to go. So this is a shared job for all of us. I'll be teaching this semester medieval Russian history, and yes, it's fully subscribed. People do like Ivan the Terrible. And also our large class, History 100, which is an introduction to history and features a new historian every session talking about some interesting aspect of history. We'll have 100 students in that class. And I am already thinking very hard, and we have already prepared it to be a very satisfying experience for our students. And in some ways, I think I'm looking forward to it maybe being a better experience than a large lecture hall experience. So, and I do want to say that for technology issues, we think about that. All of my Zoom class sessions are pre-recorded. If you can't make a class, you can then watch it later, and I know if you watched it. I pre-record my lectures, and of course I have many office hours, and I'm available to the students when they need to talk to me, either video in a video portion, or through Canvas discussion threads, or through email. So we know that the most important thing for us is to maintain our connections with our students, and that's what we're doing.
Great, thanks, Matt. Liz, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you've been teaching and what you have planned for this fall.
Sure. So I'm Elizabeth Kim. I'm in the psychology department. So I teach our intro to psychology course and a child development course, and that's what I'll be teaching this fall. So I've had the opportunity to teach my child development course for 2 summers now online, fully online, and have found it just a great experience. So in a few different ways. So one, from a course design perspective, I found it so exciting and interesting to think about how I can translate what I typically do face-to-face to the online setting. And I've actually found that I've come up with ways to kind of talk about topics or present topics in ways that I've actually then incorporated into face-to-face because I've found them so effective online, which has been something I didn't anticipate, and it's been a great benefit of teaching online. So I've enjoyed that. So I've really enjoyed that opportunity. I'm excited about to be able to do that again this fall.
Great. So, sorry, go ahead.
And then I was going to say, the second thing I was going to say is I've been really pleased with still being able to make those connections with students in the online setting. So I feel like I still have that opportunity to really get to know students, engage with students, both in synchronous sessions, but also asynchronously in terms of reading and responding to what they write on things like discussion boards. And also, in office hours and other opportunities, really having the chance still to sit down and talk and get to know students. So I've enjoyed that too.
And actually, that's a great segue. We've received a question about the chat too, but if you guys could both talk about how you're seeing students show up and engaging. I know we had a discussion that in an online format, there's no back row, there's no back seat. So how have you noticed students really showing up in your synchronous sessions, and how has that maybe been different?
Well, from my perspective, and I've taught now twice over the summers, all in different types of classes, lecture versus close, small seminars. I think that the big difference is that you're doing exactly what Elizabeth said you're doing. You're setting up things that you'll then use in your in-person classes. So for instance, engagement on lectures. In the past, it was students who wanted to ask a question in class. Now I've structured it so every student has to, for instance, make a comment on a discussion thread on the murkiest point of the lecture. And then I answer that murkiest point for everybody to see. And therefore people are, getting more insight into the lectures. I also think that in the Zoom experience, the more shy students can use the chat function. So in the past, we've often had the problem that the loudest student can sometimes monopolize the conversation. And I'm teaching a class right now on the Soviet Union and World War II. So some of my military buffs really want to dominate the class, but I don't even have to basically do the professorial, let's have somebody else talk, because somebody else has been talking on chat and then I just bring them in. So I've been particularly in love with the technology of VoiceThread, which I only used in terms of an online, thought it would be useful online. And now I use it in all my in-person classes as an opportunity for reflection and for me to engage with them. So for me, it's one of those things that, I've been teaching for 30 years. This old dog is very happy to learn new teaching tricks. And it's helped me throughout my teaching.
Yeah, I think I've tried to focus a little bit on making students feel comfortable with kind of having discussion in this Zoom format. So I actually kind of incorporate in my online classes actually maybe more opportunities for students to present what they've been working on or lead discussion about something, because I've found it's kind of helped students be comfortable with taking that role in the synchronous session as well. So we'll do things like have all students read an article, have some students post questions about that article, and then have another group of students lead discussion about the article and try to address those questions that students have posted, to kind of make this more of a discussion. And also I like this opportunity to have them be the leader, that it's not just me kind of talking to them on Zoom, but that they're part of this process as well. So I've liked that. And then so that's been a nice way to get them kind of engaged in this too, and really gives them an opportunity to take the lead, which I've liked.
That's great. And I'll ask too about office hours. Office hours have always been a staple of our Emory College faculty. We tease first year students that faculty sit in their offices waiting for students to come in and they feel very lonely. And we know that with our physical distancing requirements, many office hours won't be face-to-face. I know that our departments and faculty, those coming to campus, are working out some safe opportunities to do so outside and in offices. But how have office hours worked online? Have you seen any uptick in who's visiting you or seeing you or connecting?
Well, from my experience, they've been working out better online. So the way that the traditional office hours work is you post them and you tell students can come by and see you, right? And then you're lonely in your office, usually doing other work, and the door is open. And one of the nice things about Emory is if you walk in our hallways, you'll see professors have their doors open. They're waiting for a student to come in and talk. Now I have, programs like Calendly that arrange for them to meet me at a specific time. I'm ready and prepped for what they need to talk to me about. I've often already, in history, we work very closely with our librarians. I've often already had a session with the librarian or can bring our subject librarian into the office hours in Zoom. And we can have a specific conversation about how to get the resources the student needs to, for instance, finish their research paper or to answer a question. I just finished an entire one-on-one tutorial with a student working as a primary source, reading primary source documents of all types on the Soviet cosmonaut program. And some of that involved going line by line to try to figure out Soviet bureaucraties, right? And using Acrobat, it worked out wonderfully. So this idea that you're somehow not going to make a connection if it's online, I think that's problematic. I mean, it's worked well. It works good in person. It works well online, just as long as there's a commitment from the student and the faculty member to make it work.
Yeah, so I've found office hours really productive as well over Zoom. So one thing I try to do that I've found helpful is that I come to class or synchronous session a little early, just to to chat with students as they arrive to the synchronous session. And then I've also found, I mean, I have scheduled office hours, but also just that time after the synchronous session ends has been a great time to, you know, answer questions or just check in with students who are hanging hanging around there. So I always kind of make the point, you know, I'll be here for a little while after if you want to chat. And then also, yeah, I found you know, setting up office hours through Zoom to be really it's been a good environment for questions and discussion.
I'll say one benefit too to our new schedule is that students aren't going to be running off to the next thing. So we actually have naturally built in a little bit of extra time for students to hang around too. I have one more fun question, and then we'll go on to academic support and check back in with Matt and Elizabeth in just a bit. But there was a question about where faculty will physically be teaching their classes on campus or at home. And I think that'll probably be a mix. I know that I'll be teaching on Fridays, and I have an in-person class for some sophomores and juniors, so I'll be on campus. But Matt or Elizabeth, any sense about where our faculty will be? Where in the world will our faculty be?
Yeah, well, that's actually a good question, because for some of our faculty, they're not actually going to be physically, you know, in the city. They'll be in other places. But I'll say, just for me, we have a shed in our backyard that I've converted into an office, a studio here, and I usually teach with my dog, who is very well behaved. And, you know, the coffee is free, and I have a pretty good sandwich shop to get lunch and come back. And, you know, the view is nice, and I've had no problems at all. At most faculty, of course, because we're all scholars, usually have a place that we need to work in and get quiet, right? Because, you know, we do a lot more than just teach. We're also working on our research and things like that, right? So I have not had any of my 33 faculty members in my department complain at all about not having a place to teach in. They all have worked out those space issues for themselves and their own sanity years and years ago.
Yeah, I'm planning to teach from home too, so I'll probably be here most of the time, but I will say it varies among faculty members that I've talked to. Some have said that they're planning to teach from their office, some are planning to teach from home. So I think it varies, but I think Matt's right in kind of we've all kind of found what works best for us and are trying to use that way. So for me, teaching from home's worked pretty well, so I think I'm going to stick with that.
I'll also say we have a very stringent policy for returning to campus, similar to any of our students who will be living on campus. We have the same onboarding checklist. We will be checking our symptoms, lots of sanitation, rotating schedules, because we really are concerned about campus density, right? So with us restricting the students coming back, it's the same thought. We would not have all 450 of our faculty back at the same time as well. So just a shout out to that. Well, Matt and Elizabeth, thank you so much. We will come back to you. But for now, we're going to move on a little and talk about some of the other great academic resources available to our students. So Matt and Elizabeth just talked about office hours. I think that is the most important academic resource that our students have, and ones that we will really, really encourage them to use, whether they have a question or not. That's something we hear from students too. I don't have a question. Why should I go to office hours? It's about the connections. It's about introducing themselves. It's about knowing that Matt is a human and Elizabeth is a human, and they want to connect with your students. So besides office hours, I'm going to turn it over to Meredith Ray, who is our Associate Director of our Academic Success and Support Programs, to share some of the great ways that students will be able to get additional support.
Good afternoon. I work with our ePass academic support programs, and for us, academic support is a really critical part of student success, and we want to make sure that we're looking at academic support from the perspective of a resource that is open to everyone and should be used from the get-go for students. We often will get students that will kind of come on the back end when they're already struggling, but I love to push this out to first-year students and make sure that they are using our tutoring services, our academic coaches, our learning assistants, and attending our workshops from the very first week. We also pivoted along with campus to a virtual model for spring semester, although we have had tutoring appointments and learning assistance appointments happening throughout the summer semesters, as well as throughout previous years online for students that might not have been on campus or that might have off schedules. My colleague and myself work as coaches as well for students, meeting with them individually around academic skills. And we've been hosting those appointments virtually as well for multiple semesters for students that might need to have an evening or a weekend appointment when we might not be on campus. Our technology, we typically use Zoom, and for our tutoring programs, we have an additional platform called GoBoard that allows our students to better share some of their documents. It also has built-in functioning for working equations like for chemistry or for math, and allows them to use something like a graphing calculator, so it can be helpful for some of our courses where holding up a piece of paper to show your equation on Zoom might not be the best method for tutoring. We also partner quite a bit with our the library and our writing center. So we have resources for students no matter what projects or what types of assignments that they're working on. We also have a number of proactive research-based workshops. Some of those are presented by staff members, some are faculty-based, and some are presented by our peer coaches or other colleagues on campus. Those are also going to be mostly virtual this semester and are open to any students. The nice piece about it for us virtually is this year we won't have to look for space and find the right day and time. We can offer those multiple times. And as we offer them, we'll be posting them to our academic support website so that students are able to easily access them and get that content anytime they feel like they might need it. I think we really encourage our students to take a look at our academic support website through Emory College to be familiar with the services, and also check with their faculty members as well as with the ePass page to see which of their courses offer the different opportunities for engaging with academic support. We're also happy to help connect students to resources. So if a student feels like things are not going well academically and they just really want to kind of identify what resources they might have to help them, our office is also happy to do that as well.
And Meredith, I just, online or not, I kind of wanted to talk about the culture around academic support, if we can talk about that, because I know at Emory, all of our students coming in are amazing, right? They're strong, they've been at the top of their class, and sometimes utilizing some of these resources, they were the tutors, right? Or they were the ones helping other students. But we really do think that utilizing these things make you a better learner and a better college student. All of our students, our first year students, are new to college. So there's a pretty steep learning curve of just what it means to only be in class 2 hours a week, versus, or 2 hours a day versus 7 hours a day, and how to tackle all of that reading or doing a paper in an iterative way. So anything else you want to share just about the culture of academic support?
Sure. I think directly to the point you were speaking of, we love to have first year students come in. One of my favorite students from last year came to every workshop. He went to coaching, he went to tutoring, he met with me multiple times. And when I was sort of talking with him at the end of the term, he had a 3.75 GPA. And I said, you continue to come to these things. He said, I just want to stay ahead and make sure I'm using all my resources. And I said, I'm going to put you on a poster for the office or a video so that students follow your example. And he's just an amazing student that's engaged in his academics and really trying to use all of his resources. And we would love to see that. As students get a little bit older in their Emory career, we often see our students that are the tutors and are the coaches, or that are TAs for other courses. They'll be in the ePass Center working with tutors in other subjects because they've learned to recognize that they may be incredibly strong in 3 or 4 subjects, but there are other subjects maybe where they do need assistance or they need another person's perspective. And so I love to see students recognize that a little earlier in their career. And so parents and family members can definitely help nudge them in that direction. I know faculty do in supporting students in accessing our services.
I'll also say that actually for our stellar students, maybe similar to the one who you worked with last year, they often then get hired and trained by us. And not only paid positions throughout their career, but such amazing skill sets to then, put on resumes or in applications to graduate programs. I know some of our students really reflect so positively on those experiences that set them up for jobs and other things as well.
Yeah, and Sherry, I want to add too for families is that to encourage your student to do this early on, because then they're going to get that input and that advice from the experts. And their high school might have taught things a little bit differently, and we admitted them to succeed. We just are giving the tools to succeed. So encourage them to do it early on, because we do get a lot of inquiries about it. It might get a little backlogged, and we want them to be starting off from the beginning feeling confident. So if they're lacking in confidence in any topic or any subject, encourage them to seek out these resources.
We will launch a series of workshops for first-year students in the first and second weeks of school, just to help them establish a schedule, take a look at their time management skills, maybe give an overview of some great strategies for studying at Emory or learning in different types of courses at Emory. And definitely we have a strong focus this semester on online learning and really doing their best in online courses.
And I'll throw a softball too. If your students are feeling nervous about connecting with office hours or don't want to go because they don't have a question, a great question, and Matt and Elizabeth, you can tell me, is to show up to office hours in the first few weeks and say, you know, Dr. Payne, Professor Payne, what's a great strategy for learning in this class, or what other things do you recommend for me to do? And so that really shows that they're interested in learning and hearing from the experts about how they suggest being successful in their classes. Great. So we're going to move on to talk a little bit more about setting your students up for success, especially in an online learning environment. I know Sarah and Meredith are going to share some tips, and Matt and Elizabeth can kind of chime in as well if there are things that they've noticed or observed from their students as well.
Great, thanks. So our tips for online learning are probably things that you all are also thinking about and dealing with as you might be working from home as well. And some of those tips are going to be similar, and that whether or not your student is on campus or if they're off campus, either in an apartment in Atlanta or at home, we do encourage students to be really thoughtful and intentional about creating a space for accessing their courses. We want their courses to be able to be sort of an immersive experience where they really feel like they're with the professor and with their classmates. And so some of the things that help that are to, as we mentioned earlier, to use headphones, to use virtual backgrounds if they want to, if they have any privacy concerns about showing their home space or their unmade bed in their dorm room, then they can use use a virtual background in Zoom to create the setting that they would like to be in. We also have we encourage the use of headphones also so that students can really focus in on the class. And we know that if students are at home, a lot of our houses are not huge. Students may have siblings or parents or roommates that are needing to be in the same space, and that's okay. But using those headphones does allow the student to really focus in on the class and make sure that the privacy of the class is respected as well. So it helps all the students in the class to feel safe, like they're in an actual classroom, and can really engage with one another and with the material without having to worry about somebody's mom overhearing or something in the background. So we want to create that sort of environment for everyone. We also have created, Meredith and her team have done a wonderful job creating a module that will be part of PACE for all incoming students that will give them further instructions and tips about learning online and how to manage their time and how to set up an environment that's conducive to online learning, how to get the support that they need if they need that. Meredith, I don't know if you had anything to add on those points.
I think we thoroughly covered the last one, which was my key point, being proactive. And I think we're all speaking to that across the board for this semester, especially.
I think we could all have our funny Zoom moments of who has interrupted a class. I know in one of my early trainings, I had a dog, a doorbell, and an electric vacuum cleaner all going off at the same time. But Matt or Elizabeth, do you want to say anything too about other visitors in the class? Because, you know, in a typical classroom on campus, we wouldn't have parent visitors or siblings or others. And we obviously know that those things might happen, but maybe any kind of words about setting it up so that your students are really the primary people in the class.
Sorry about that. I made a Zoom mistake myself. My own experience is that, you really need to kind of lay down some ground rules that this is education and it is serious. And elder siblings have been a bigger problem for me than even cats. And, I don't find it amusing when you're bothering your little sister trying to learn and things like that. And you might think it's ho, ho, ho. But for me, I think that's where parents have to set, the tone that, look, this is work. That we're all working very hard here. And so please respect, your students' time to do the work. And the other thing I would mention is just to talk about some of the student support stuff. Remember, we professors use this all the time. I mean, I am astounded that students feel like tutoring is a mark of shame. I mean, I go to my colleagues every time I have a piece of research to work on and say, get some peer review. And I say, well, what do you guys think about it? And students are able to go to the writing center and get writing coaching. Faculty have to pay for copy editing, right? I mean, it's just a wonderful thing. So we integrate this into our own work. We encourage students to do it. And as a parent talking to your students, one of the things we talk about in the history department is creating your mentoring team. That's a number of students, your professors, your advisor, but also talking to your college advisor. Your people in the career center are very helpful, in the alumni center. So really encourage your students to be very proactive, and the best things come out of that.
Yeah, I would just echo that with, I feel like we've been doing a lot of that kind of tutoring, at least in my department, as we prepare for online teaching this fall. So I have already, 2 standing appointments a week, just talking to different people about what they're planning for their courses and how we can do our things. So yeah, we as faculty do that frequently, and I'd encourage students to do that too.
Awesome. So in this slide too, we're talking about supporting your students. And Bridget, I'd love to really invite you back in. For those of you who have been with us all summer, we kicked off our Family Friday webinars talking about FERPA and really beginning to turn the reins over for student learning to your students, which we know is hard, but definitely why you're sending them to Emory so that they can become really independent learners and thinkers and doers. And so remembering FERPA, our Family Educational Rights and Protection Act, that your students are our primary focus, and that they are going to be the drivers with communication. Their grades go to them and them only unless they've given permission to you to see that. We are expecting your students to make those appointments with faculty members, and when they schedule those advisors or other things, that they are the ones showing up. We always get a few every year appointments that look like they're coming from students, and when you log in or answer the phone, it's the parent. But really, this needs to be directed by, driven by, led by your student. And Bridget, I know you're a recent college graduate in your household as well, but if you'd like to share some of your thoughts. Yeah.
But I think the best part is that you will appreciate watching your student grow as a person and grow independently. And that whole idea, and the faculty love that. The faculty love to nurture our students and help them get their own voice. So in high school, so much is regimented, and even the college schedule is a lot more free and open. So letting your students be the one to take the guidance and from the faculty members and the staff members, and then chart their own course. You can be there, of course. We want you a part of their lives. You're going to be a big part of their lives. And we want you to nudge them when appropriate. However, at the end of the day, it's a relationship between them and their faculty member, or them and a staff member. And I think you can ask the good questions like, how's that going? What are you learning in that class? However, yet we have to let them do trial and error and let them figure things out. And they will, because we're going to be here to prod them too. So they're getting prodding by their faculty members and staff members already. So please know, we're not going to let them slip. We're going to keep pushing them up. Your encouragement will be, of course, very important. However, it's their time to really learn what they're made of and become emerging adults. And we're excited about that. And we want you to share our excitement. And so we're all in this together, and we appreciate your support, just trying to get them moving forward in an independent way.
Great. So we're coming close to the end of our presentation and really wanted to talk about the next few things coming up. I know these are big topics on your mind, on your students' mind. So hopefully we will leave with some good tips for you to get ready for the next few days. First and foremost, registration is coming up on Monday the 10th and Tuesday the 11th. And if you have heard anything in the background or seen any of our materials, our mantra is that registration is a process, not an event. So very different than high school when you're assigned a schedule and there's very little flexibility. We couldn't have things more different in college. And so our team right now is working on pre-enrolling students in up to 5 credits. I think there's been some confusion about what's promised or what has to be. So everybody's getting a section of health and PACE just to get started. And everybody's getting at least one general education requirement. It might be a seminar, it might be a writing, it might be a history, society, culture, or a science, nature, technology. We just wanted to get it started so that when your students logged in on Monday morning, they're not starting from a blank slate. That being said, they will have lots of opportunities to change. So if they don't like that 8 a.m. PACE class, they can find another section. If they maybe want to decide to take their first year seminar in the spring because they want to focus on other things this fall, that's absolutely okay. So if your students or you are logging on this weekend and you see things and you think that's not right, or they have AP credit for that, do not worry. There's lots of opportunity to change. So on Monday, your students will log in a few minutes before noon into Opus. At that point, we hope that their shopping carts are loaded up with lots and lots of options. We've said that our shopping carts are kind of like an Amazon wish list, and you are not going to know what you're going to check out with or order until you're in real time. So at that point, your students will get to see what's open, what classes, like Maths History 100, lots of sections and seats open there. And they'll pick from there and actually enroll in live time. They'll get to make some changes through 11:59 on the 11th, but that is absolutely not the end of registration. There's still a process open. So our goal is to get everybody in at least 12 credit hours. And we are limiting our first year students to 17 hours. And I'll let Matt and Elizabeth talk about this. 17 hours is plenty. Our goal is really to get students between 15 and 17 credits. If they do that every semester, they will absolutely graduate on time. So that's good to know. And again, this is new, right? Even though we know that they love the academics and they're looking forward to the rigor of college, it's still new. And so we want you to trust us that balance and those credits are things that we've really looked at and thought about. And that's why we make those recommendations. Another thought about registration, we have told this to your students, but so you hear it as well, there is absolutely no such thing as a perfect schedule. And something that Sarah talked about at the very onset of this is that our classes sometimes are still small. They're capped at maybe 16, 18, 25, even 40 students. And that's on purpose. It's pedagogically designed so that our faculty can make the right kind of assignments, so that students can actually interact with each other and with our faculty as well. And so it might mean that students won't get into that class that they absolutely must think that they have to have in the fall. But so many of our classes are offered every semester. So if they don't get into Calculus 1, hey, January is just a few months away. It's really okay. I also have been talking a lot about the universe sending messages. So sometimes they end up in a class just because that's what is open, and that turns out to be the favorite class, the favorite professor, the favorite group discussion. So having an open mind and being really flexible is going to make this process a more enjoyable experience. The add-drop swap period is 9 days long. It opens up on Monday the 17th and goes to the 26th. At that time, your students can make as many changes to their schedules as possible. So again, registration on Monday and Tuesday. We are having a webinar this Sunday, so you'll see me again and some of our other great academic advisors going through the nuts and bolts about registration and hoping to calm some nerves. Again, anything that they are pre-enrolled in, can be changed starting Monday and Tuesday. So they have to keep, the only things they have to keep are health and PACE, but they don't even have to keep those sections. So I know I'm an instructor, Meredith's an instructor, Bridget's an instructor. We have 78 sections of PACE that they can choose from as well. Shopping carts should stay full. I would say if there's a course that's of interest to your student, have it stay open. Again, like an Amazon wish list, they'll be able to see in real time when things open or close. And once that Dropswap opens, and Matt and Liz, you can kind of talk about this, it's a free-for-all, right? All of our students are making changes. They might join in a Zoom in day one and go, Russian history, not what I thought, but, or yeah, Russian history, sign me up for more. And so letting them have that flexibility for the week is really, really important as well. Yes, Matt.
So I want to say about this process that really it's one of those things that when we're doing PACE advising, we really often advise our advisees, no, look, you don't need to take that right now. You can take it later, right? You might want to consider this. Oh, I'm absolutely certain that I want to take the course with this professor. Well, he teaches every year and teaches every semester, right? And also there is this other class that is very interesting. Have you considered that? And as to the issue about add drop swap and close classes, one of my classes is completely closed right now. It's a writing intensive class on medieval Russia. And I know that once the students get in and look at the syllabus, maybe 7 or 8 of them will say, oh my God, Payne wants me to read all of this. And yes, Payne does, because the Russians have a great saying, reading is good for the soul. And I want students to have great souls, right? So I lose a bunch of students, but do I worry? Does the dean get upset with me that I'm not having enough enrollment? No, because another whole bunch of students who say, oh my God, we get to talk about icons. I heard that from my friend, will come into the class. So I always have full classes. I never have the same roster I start with registration. And, when students can't take my class in a particular area, we often talk about what I'll be offering in the spring or later, and they decide, oh, I really only have one history class I want to take, and I'd rather take the one about Lenin than Ivan the Terrible. So, you just need to talk to your faculty and listen to your advisor. They really do try to help you. And a final point, not every class, right, has the right learning style for a particular student, right? I get it. I'm from Boston. I come on a little strong, right? So maybe you might want to take a history class with somebody who's not going to be, demanding you answer a question, right? That's fine. We're not insulted, and we'll give advice to you on who has a different type of teaching style. It's okay.
And I want to add to what Matt says. It is so true. Add, drop, swap at Emory. It's like a game in a good way. And students really, they get information about classes that they didn't know before. I believe for a lot of first-year students, they might be tentative about it because it just seems foreign to them. They want it all set. However, they need to be really open-minded. And I guarantee for you, subsequent class registrations, you will be asking your student what their class is and what their class schedule is, and they'll be saying, I don't know yet. And they might not know because they're into the drop, swap, switch it out. And just like Matt said, they're into finding out about what works for them best and what topic might be of interest that they didn't think of before. So really allow your students to be flexible in this. There's some courses that'll take its course, and like Sherry has said, and Elizabeth has said, there are professors teaching courses every year, and a lot of these topics are continued. Just, let them be really open-minded about their curriculum. That's what a liberal arts education is, and that's why we want them to explore at Emory and see what their interests are.
So there have been some great questions in the chat kind of about those recommended credit hours, and should we start with a particular general education requirement, and how flexible should we be? So a few more notes before we go on to our next slide. 15 to 17 credits is a recommendation. The reason we recommend that, again, is if they stay on that path, they'll graduate for sure in 4 years. If they end up with 13 or 14 credits this fall, that's okay. It might mean that they take 18 credits in the spring, or they might do a summer class eventually, or go study abroad, which would be amazing once we are all able to travel a little bit more. So that flexibility is okay. We do need them to have a minimum of 12 credit hours because that's our full-time status, and all of our first-year students will be at full-time status. The 15 bottom kind of limit does allow for a little bit more flexibility. So if a student needs to withdraw from a class later in the semester, it allows them to maintain that 12 credit hours. But if they only end up at that 14, that's absolutely okay. As for starting with languages, I typically say if language is of interest, if it's something that you want to continue your language study throughout your years, if you know you want to study abroad and really, really go deep into that language, yes, for sure, start early if you can. We also have so many different languages. So we know so many students took Spanish or French in high school, but take Hindi, take Italian, learn something, take Russian. Lots of different options there, and students can gain those credits, again, abroad, in classes, over the summer, different ways as well. And then finally, about the pre-enrollment, our team is working in real time as we speak, working on those pre-enrollments by the end of the day. If for whatever reason, something doesn't look right by Monday, or you didn't get a class, or that, there will be spots. So again, we have 1,379 students in many different configurations we're working with. And so do not panic, lots and lots of time to get this going again. So we're going to move on to a few other reminders that our parent and family orientation programs, our schedule is now posted online, as well as your students' orientation schedule. Really great webinar series and other people that you'll hear from. Our Dean of Faculty, Carla Freeman, who's also an Emory parent, will be joining us for a live chat. We'll get to hear from our new president, President Fenves, other faculty members. So really excited about that. And Bridget's whole office, the Parent and Family Programs, is going to shepherd you through the fall and the next 4 years. So lots of great programming that's going to come from her office as well. We'd love to stay engaged and connected with you throughout the fall. Again, Parent Portal, you can tune in beginning on the 28th, and then family.emory.edu. Well, Bridget, you want to talk a little bit more about the Parent Portal and what's happening on the 28th?
Absolutely. We're doing a program for you on August 28th about how we want families to be engaged at the university, whether your student is working at home or here on campus. We want you to be a part of our university experience. And so we have a lot of resources. One is the family portal. If you're not on the family portal, we hope you are on that. You can just go to www.family.emory.edu and that'll show up. And also we want you to know what's going on in your regions around the country. So the interesting part with virtual, with everything we do, we used to come to you, but you might not be in the city that we came to. But now with the virtual format, we can come to you all over the place. So you'll be hearing from us in that webinar, and we look forward to talking with you then.
Great. And again, this recording, like all of our Family Friday recordings, are available on our YouTube channel at college.emory.edu/orientation. We're happy for you to revisit with us. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you. We see so many familiar names in the chat, so I feel like we know you already. And I'd like to, any final words from our panelists, but thank you all so much for joining us. And Sarah, Matt, Elizabeth, Meredith, Bridget, I think a great way to finish up this series. And I know I'm really excited about starting online with my classes this fall as well.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege and an honor to teach your students, and we take that responsibility very seriously.